Hello everyone, Emma here, welcome. Thank you for joining me for our short practice today, which focuses on our balance and in particular transitions in and out of Warrior 3. However, there's not loads of different transitions, it's all the same transitions. So we're going to do it multiple times so that we can get into a rhythm of practicing Warrior 3. Okay, so let's start in, my suggestion is you might want to start in hero pose. At the back of your mat, I'm going to sit on a block. So hero pose is heels outside the hips. If that doesn't feel good for your feet, your ankles, or your knees, please feel free to either sit in Dandasana with your legs out in front of you, or like I've done, support your hips on as many blocks or cushions as you like. And we'll just stay here for about 5 breaths. You can bring your hands into your lap or to a prayer. Let's just close down the eyes. Take a moment to arrive and be ready for the work that we're going to do together over the next approximately 20 minutes. So take deep breaths in and deep breaths out through your nose. And just notice how the breath is without judgment. Let's stay for about another 5 rounds of breath. If your eyes are closed, blink them open, come back to the light with a soft focus. And then we're going to get rid of anything that we're sitting on. We're done with that now. We'll stay at the back of the mat and we'll move into a child's pose, which you can do either with your knees together or you can bring your knees to the edges of the mat and walk your hands away, resting your head either onto a cushion or blanket or dropping it down to the mat. Let's stay for 5 breaths. On your next inhale, start to bring yourself up and into your tabletop position. And from tabletop, excuse me, we're going to downward facing dog. So curl your toes under and push up and back. Sending your chest back. Spreading out your fingers, pushing away from the mat. Bend the knees if you like. Now in this first dog, you can take as much movement as you wish. You can move into your toes and ankles, your knees and hips. But you can also come into your shoulders and wrists as well if you like. Take a bit of movement there. Really just finding any movement that feels good from the foundation of downward facing dog. Okay, let's bring the knees down and just come off the wrists for a moment. Maybe bring the hands together, interlace the fingers. Give the wrists a little rotation in each direction. Okay, let's come back into downward facing dog. And we'll practice 3-legged dog with closed hips.
So let's take the right leg up and back. It doesn't matter how high you go, but I want you to keep your right hip pointing down to the mat so we don't open to the right side. The right hip stays pointing down. Let's point the toes away. And let's stay for another 3, 2, and the last breath in. And exhale, downward facing dog. Okay, let's go to the other side. Right foot stays down. Inhale, lift up your left leg. Point your toes away and your left hip pointing down to the mat. And the rest of the body we're trying to keep in downward facing dog. Stay for another 3 and 2. Inhale and exhale, downward facing dog. Okay, have a little stretch out, a little movement. And then we're going to jump through and come to a reclined position actually. So jump yourself through and then come down to lie on your back. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm really croaky today. All right, let's carefully send the legs out so that we are fully reclined, and we'll send all our toes up towards the ceiling. Arms at the side of the body with the palms facing down. Okay, next, on an inhalation, we're going to lift the right leg, keeping it straight, and just lift it as far as it feels comfortable to go without impacting on the back. So we don't want to go into a back bend or in fact any discomfort for the back. So just lift your leg, keeping it straight to your maximum. And we're staying here for 5 breaths. So quite often we do this pose with a strap. Sometimes we do it with using our hands on the leg or the big toe. But today we're just using the strength and flexibility of the body to move the leg. So it might feel quite intense around the hips, which is fine. Okay, so we've had about 5 breaths. For the next 3 breaths, an option is to lift your arms over your head to the floor behind you. Keep your navel drawing into your spine. Stay for another 2, 1, and then to release, let's bend the knee, drop the foot down, bring your arms back to your sides, and carefully release the right leg. Okay, let's do the other side. So back to where you started. On an inhalation, lift up your left leg to your own maximum. So where is your maximum? Well, it's the place where you get to when you really start to feel the stretch in this case, in the back of the leg. And that's where we'll stay. So have both feet flexed. And this leg is engaged, this right leg and the left leg and the right leg. So another 4 breaths in the first part of the pose. Remember, neutral spine. 2 more deep breaths. Okay, final option is to inhale and reach your arms up and over your head. And what you might notice here is that we are making the shape of a reclined warrior 3. Although, of course, it's not necessarily going to look like this when we're standing on one leg. Definitely not. Okay, let's bend the left knee, bring it in. Release your arms down, and this time let's bring the right knee in to join. Pull the knees gently to the body. Have a little rock or a little circle in the back of the hips. Okay, we're going to come back to downward facing dog now. So you can either just swing to your side, or you could roll forward and step back. So just find your way into another downward facing dog. Okay, from downward facing dog, we're coming back to table. So drop your knees down, shoulders over the wrists, and balancing table is next. So let's step the right foot all the way back on the mat, navel up to spine, and then lift your right leg up and reach your left arm forward. Use your core muscles to keep you steady. So navel up to spine, gazing down to the mat. Let's stay for 3 more breaths. 2, 1. Exhale, knee and hand to the mat. And let's change. Step back with the left foot this time. Engage through core muscles. Lift your left heel and reach your right arm forward. Keep gazing down. Another 3. And 2. And 1. Let's exhale, drop the knees, knee and the hand down. Let's come off the wrist. Once again, we'll do that little rotation. And then let's come back, downward facing dog. Good. Okay, let's walk the feet and the hands together in the middle of the mat. And bring the fingers onto the shins and lift halfway, gaze forward. And then breathe out, forward fold. Let's bring the chest, the lower belly down to the thighs. So take a good bend into the knees. And then an option you could take here, peace fingers around the big toes for Dandasana. Option to stay or option to inhale, start to lift in to the sitting bones. And exhale, forward fold. So if you don't want to do Dandasana, you could take your ragdoll variation, grab your opposite elbow with your opposite hand. Stay for another 3 breaths wherever you are. And then release your toes or release your elbows. Fingers to shins, halfway lift. Soften the knees, fold down again, exhale. Then inhale and send your chest forward, reach all the way up. Palms touch overhead and look to your hands. Hands to the heart center. And exhale, mountain pose. Good job. Okay, now we're ready to practice our short flow, which will start and end in mountain. And we'll step into a couple of other poses, adding another pose each time and then working back through. You don't need to remember. That's my job, hopefully, potentially. Okay, so let's start at the top of the mat in mountain pose. Relax your shoulders down. And then inhale to extended mountain pose. Take your arms all the way up and overhead. Okay, so we're going to get ready for warrior 3, our first warrior 3. Weight into the right foot, come onto your left toes, and then start to send your left leg back as your chest and your arms come forward. Keep your left hip pointing down to the mat. 3 breaths. 2, 1. Step back to a high lunge. Stay for 3. And 2. And 1. Coming back to warrior 3. Weight to the right foot. Send your chest forward, lifting up your left leg. Stay for 3. And 2. And 1. Extended mountain pose. Inhale. Stay for 3. And 2. And exhale. Release, arms down. Okay, other side. Weight onto the left foot. Inhale, reach up. Extended mountain pose. Sorry, weight on both feet for extended mountain pose. Good. Okay, now inhale. Weight is coming on to the left foot. Let's start to take the right leg back to warrior three. And keep your right hip drawing down. Doesn't matter how high the leg goes at the back. 2 and 1. From here, high lunge, step it back. Find your stability, gaze forward. 3 breaths. On your next inhale, you're coming back to your warrior. Reaching forward, right hip down, 3, 2, and 1. Inhale to extended mountain pose. And exhale into mountain pose. Good. This time we'll add in another warrior. We'll add in warrior 1 after our high lunge. Okay, so mountain pose. Inhale, extended mountain pose. Good. Keep your weight onto your right foot, warrior 3. Left leg back. 2 more breaths. And then take a big step back, high lunge. Chest forward, gaze ahead. Okay, now drop your back heel to the mat. Warrior 1. Good. High lunge, breathe in. 3. And then you're going to bring the weight forward. Warrior 3. Stay with it. Nearly there. And then inhale. Extended mountain pose. And exhale. Mountain pose. How are your shoulders doing? Good. Mine are burning. Okay, mountain pose. Inhale, extended mountain pose. And bring the weight onto your left foot. Warrior 3. Good. Step back, high lunge. Sink in. And then exhale, warrior 1, heel drops down, sink deep into your front knee, left hip back. Good. High lunge. Spin onto your back toes. 3. And then back to warrior 3. Weight travels forward. Chest comes down as the leg goes back. 3. 2. 1. Extended mountain pose. Reach high. 3. 2. And exhale. Bring your arms down. Mountain pose. How do you feel? Good. Okay, let's take a step out. Wide leg, forward fold. And take your hands behind you and interlace your fingers. Wrap the shoulder blades in towards the spine. Inhale, lift up, belly in. And exhale, let's fold forward. Chest is coming down. Maybe lift your hands off your lower back. Starting to bring them up, maybe. Let's stay for 3 more breaths wherever you are. And then inhale, chest forward, come all the way up to the top. Exhale, release your hands onto your hips. And then either step or jump your feet together. Good. Okay, let's come down onto the mat. And sit in Dandasana with your legs out in front of you. Just release any extra padding out of the sitting bones and point your toes up to the ceiling. Dandasana, hands at the side of the hips, fingers face forward. Lengthen from the tailbone to the crown of the head, and then send your heels away from the hips. Gaze at your toes, and let's stay for 5. Last round of breath. And release your heels down. Okay, let's bend the right knee. And let's come to Janusasana, the head to knee pose. Drop the knee down, sole of the foot into left thigh, sit tall. And then as you exhale, we'll hinge forward, walking the hands away, keeping the gaze on the toes today. And we'll stay for about 4 breaths. Let's breathe in, lift the chest, walk the hands back in, and bring your knee up and then cross the foot over the left. We'll do a seated twist. Hold on to the right knee with your left hand and reach up and behind with your right. Sit tall and inhale, and exhale into a recline, into a twist. Three more breaths. Okay, let's come back to face forward. Let's come back to Dandasana and do those 2 poses on the other side. So left knee up and then down, sole of the foot into the right thigh. Sit tall and then hinge forward from the right hip. Reach towards either your toes, onto your calf, or onto the floor. Inhale, lift, and we'll fold. 4 breaths. Inhale and lift up your chest and walk your hands back in. Let's do a seated, not reclined, twist. Left foot over the right. Reach up your left hand and bring it behind you. Hold onto the left knee with your right hand. Long in the spine, breathing in, rotating as you breathe out. And we'll stay for 4 breaths in the twist. Remember, you don't need to deepen the twist. If you don't want to, that is completely optional. Good, let's come back to face forward. We'll go back to Dandasana, and then I want you to come into a cross-legged position. And if you don't like cross legs, you can stay in Dandasana. Okay, let's just do some Gomukhasana arms to stretch out into the shoulders. So let's sweep the left arm up and drop the fingers to the right shoulder. Sweep the right arm around and see if you can connect the fingers behind the back. If you can't, that's not a problem, because you can just hold onto your clothes or simply send the hands towards each other. Lift up in your top elbow and down in your bottom elbow, and keep your chest lifted. I don't know if you can hear just how wet it is in Stockport today. It's absolutely hammering down. and last week it was 37 degrees. Okay, and let's release carefully and roll the shoulders a couple of times, and then let's do the other side. So sit your right arm up, bend your elbow, fingertips to the left shoulder, and reach around with the left arm, bending the elbow, looking for connection and noticing if it's easier or not as easy on this side. So the top elbow draws up and back, the bottom elbow draws down and back, and the chest stays nice and open. Let's have 2 more breaths. Good. Let's release carefully. Roll the shoulders. Give them a shrug. Good. Thank you for practice. Well done. What would be nice is to take a little rest for the body. So you could either stay here in a cross-legged position, maybe close your eyes and rest your hands on your lap or palms up for a few minutes, or you could lie down and take constructive rest or shavasana, just to allow the practice to settle in the body before you go about the rest of your day. I'll leave it here and say thank you very much for practice, and I'll see you on the next video. Om Shanti.